Yeah, hi Mike. It's Fred Garner here, railman of Kent, but also now a member of the AIMREC team, which is the Ashford International Model Railway Education Centre. And I'd like to welcome here to our new studio and workshop in Bethersden, which we've been working on since March. So after taking part in the Great Model Railway Challenge and producing the three layouts, we needed a home for them. And very luckily, there was a team in Ashford at the same time, led by Cliff Parsons, looking to establish a model railway visitor attraction and education centre in Ashford. And we were able to take the layouts direct from the NEC to a unit that Cliff had acquired in the centre of Ashford and put them on display for about 3 months after the show. That's how I got involved with the AIMREC team. COVID slightly got in the way of our plans of expanding out of that unit into something more permanent. After the layouts were in store for a year, and thanks to the Hornby team at Margate for doing that for us, we were able to locate this premises in Bethersden here, just outside Ashford, which we've now set up as a home for the GMRC layouts, and as you'll be able to see, a few other things besides. So the AIMREC project is a springboard to showcase some really fantastic examples of model railways, both historical and more contemporary. Within the AIMREC collection, there's some amazing layouts like the Gresley Beat, like Coventry, as well as some more modern stuff like the Great Model Railway Challenge layouts and some projects that we've got under construction at the moment. And what we really want to do is put something together that showcases the best of the hobby, brings new people into the hobby. They see what's possible in both a small space and a very large space, and the complete range of models that you can build representing all eras, all different railway companies and all types of locomotives, whether steam, diesel and everything in between. So Cliff and the team have been around for about 5 years putting the project together. Since we got our premises here in Bethersden, we've now got about 10 regular volunteers, and we're obviously looking to grow that as time goes on and as the interest around our project grows. Well, we're aiming to open the studio and workshop in November, in late November, on Saturdays, so that people can come along and see what we're up to. And the objective of setting ourselves up here is to give us a springboard for the bigger AIMREC project. So if we can make a success of this unit here, show people what we're capable of doing, I'm really hopeful it's going to lead to something bigger and better for Ashford and the South East in the future. I've got lots. I mean, obviously participating in the Great Model Railway Challenge was something pretty special, and we look back on that as a fond memory for those of us that were involved in it. And of course it's led to this. It's slightly taken over our lives, the model railway hobby. But I mean, like a lot of people, you build up quite a significant collection of locomotives and rolling stock and layouts, and I've actually got most of the layouts that I've built in store somewhere or other, either in the house, the garage or the shed, because they all represent a kind of part of your life when you were building it. Or they represent a happy place for you that you've been inspired by, whether it's a holiday in Scotland or a holiday down in Dawlish on the Devon coast, or a big London terminus where you might have spent your boyhood train spotting. You know, there are so many things that you can build into a model, and they're all based around memories. It was absolutely fantastic. It gave us all a common thing to work on. There was a lot of fun in the preparation, in the planning, and thinking about what we were going to do and building into people's ideas, and then finding out what everybody wanted to do and could create could contribute to the team. So it was really good. It brought us much closer together. I'd like you to look at all of it, because there is a lot of, I use the word curation, but there's a lot of thought gone in, not just to the layouts, but the way we've presented them. As a studio and workshop, it is a working area, so some of the layouts are still under construction, but we've tried to put them in a setting that people might not normally see model railway layouts. You know, we want to be part museum, and we've got a cabinet called I Had One of Those. So we want to bring those happy memories back, and maybe if a visitor comes and they're looking to get back into the hobby, or they're not even been in the hobby, but they see something that they had as a kid and it brings back that happy memory, it inspires them to go and start a new layout, that will be a perfect result for us.
My name's Cliff Parsons. I'm one of the trustees of AIMREC. We've been going now for about 6 years, but originally we were offered by the council a site on the old railway works, which we did a lot of exploratory work on. But in the end, the site that we were offered was so polluted that we had to pull out. It was as simple as that. It was going to cost between £60,000 and £100,000 just to clean the site up. So it was way out of our league. So we pulled out, and then in the meantime, the council offered us a unit in Ellswick Place in Ashford, which we took, which was very successful. We only opened up on Saturdays and Sundays, and we were getting an average of about 300 visitors a weekend without any advertising whatsoever on local radio, local press. It was all word of mouth. And you know, we had several layouts there: the Gresley Beat, Penpole, the Great Model Railway Challenge, and people are absolutely, the word you can only use is gobsmacked by the standard of what we were offering. And you know, and after the outbreak of COVID, we had to give the site up, and Fred kindly let AIMREC use part of this building, which he's taken on to store his Great Model Railway Challenge layouts, for AIMREC to open a workshop for people to come along and see what we're doing. The overall aim of AIMREC is to preserve some of the finest model railways that have ever been built. We've got about 10 in store already. These are works of art. I mean, some of them have taken 30, 40 years to construct. And when you think it only took Leonardo da Vinci 6 years to paint the Sistine Chapel, we could certainly call these works of art. I've been, I hate to say it, I've been a model railway enthusiast for nearly 70 years. I first went to the Girls and Boys exhibition run by the Eagle Comic, for those of my age, at the Central Hall, Westminster, and then latterly the agricultural halls at Westminster. And I saw a model railway presented by Hornby, then the Meccano company, and that was it. I was hooked. I needed to have one of those, you know. And I can remember buying my first piece of Hornby track at 3 shillings and threepence old money, and it's grown from there, and I've spent thousands in the meantime. No, not really. Only a couple of my locomotives are actually in the collection. The Gresley Beat would virtually fill this room completely. And we've got Coventry as well, which is a layout measuring 60 by 40. We couldn't get it in here. So these are all in store in my factory in Woodchurch in Kent, where they'll remain until obviously we get permanent premises. I think, as Fred said earlier, it's a hobby that involves so many aspects of woodwork, perception, artistry, electronics, electrics. It crosses over so many different skills, and I think that's what appeals to lots of people. And you can become involved with model railway clubs, and it gets you out and about meeting other like-minded people, and I think that's very important, you know, particularly at the moment with, you know, just come out of lockdown. I think it's been important, although a lot of the clubs have obviously been shut because of the pandemic. But, you know, there is a great model railway fraternity in clubs up and down the country. Long may it continue. Yeah, well, you can always sit at home at your workbench and do various things. There's always jobs to be done, and, you know, I've continued to model all the way through, although I'm semi-retired now. But, you know, it gives you a reason to get out of bed in the morning, you know, and some mornings you do need one. Like I say, I was enchanted as a child by that first visit to the Boys and Girls exhibition and seeing that model railway. And It's always stuck in my mind, and obviously, you know, it led on to train spotting and then building my first railway at home, which was very small, to my last venture, which was the Grizzly Beat, which is, you know, something that measures 30 by 16. So, you know, from the sublime to the ridiculous.
So I'm James, the eldest of the 3 sons of the Great Model Rail Challenge team. Work for Network Rail is my day job, but been into the hobby since a young age, and it was model railways that really inspired that. So AIMREC, I'm more of helping out as and when I can. Obviously, being in a full-time role on the railway, it's difficult, but sort of definitely getting the GMRC layouts back, working on some of the new layouts that we're building. So for me, it was the thing that kicked off my interest into the wider and real life railways. So from playing with sort of Brio from a young age, and then seeing Dad's first layout, and then sort of building your first layout yourself, and then it just kicked that on. And we've got a team here that are multiple different ages, and again they're in different industries as well. They're not all just in the railways, so it means something different to everyone. But yeah, for me it was the thing that kicked that spark off. Not really, no, because it's different set of problems, different set of challenges, but no, it's something that you can come home to and then forget about the problems of the real railway or real life job, whatever that might be. As I say, we've got different people here from different industries, and just sort of get away from it. I'm obviously being on the railway, I'm more the track building, so laying the track and making sure everything's working, testing electronics. Recently I've got into a lot of sort of Wi-Fi control, so taking a lot of our layouts into the next century really. And technology is another thing that I've been into as a sort of extra hobby, so bringing that into the model world. Oh. Being part of the model challenge, it was stressful when we were there, but we were delighted to obviously win it. And then it was a case of, right, well, what's available? Found AIMREC obviously after having a bit of a period with Hornby, and then to bring them here and sort of start afresh and sort of think, right, what layouts have we got that we can display in the space we've got here at Bethersden, and then which new builds are we going to produce. It was interesting for us to sit down and work that all out. Yeah, so the connection from Harry Potter has got a bit of track work to do, so that's going to be my job. Some of the animations have required a bit of touching up, a bit of work on them to make sure they're working again. The track was cleaned because that was obviously very dusty, and much like if you close a line in the real world, you've got to send a cleaner along it. So yeah, definitely. I mean, we've got a lad that's just joined that's from a local school, and he comes down on a Friday, and he's been really into it because he doesn't get a lot of other sort of people to meet, but he's got an interest in railways again. Again, we've got Mike and Ellie. They've got a big interest in the railway, and they come down on a weekend. So because you're working with people of different ages or similar ages, because we've got quite a broad range here of people, it's whether you're working on existing layout or new layout, or even if it's just doing something with one of the display cabinets, you're sort of forgetting about what's going on in the outside world to achieve a common goal here. And it's easy to sort of speak to one another, and yeah.
This is a layout we're developing for our younger visitors to AIMREC. It's called Sissinghurst Lane, and it's based on a simple oval with some sidings, and we're developing it as a layout to show younger modelers and I guess their parents and their helpers actually how easy it is to develop a really interesting model railway from what at face value is a very relatively simple plan. It's based on a couple. It's a 6x4 plan, and it's built from a couple of recovered baseboards that were donated to the project by a family that were moving house and had no more room for the railway. And it came from Sissinghurst, which is why we've coined the name Sissinghurst Lane as a village in Kent. And it gives us a chance to do a kind of traditional model railway layout, but one with, we think, operational interest as well. The idea of this is it's a layout that's quite interactive for younger modelers, and it's both a shunting game, an operation game, and a chance to build your layout following a set of instructions. So a young visitor would come to the layout. We wouldn't have any buildings on it. The first thing that they would do is locate the buildings and place them in the locations that are shown on the layout according to the plan. And then they follow the instructions on the plan for firstly assembling a passenger train and then assembling a goods train and then running them around the oval. So it's kind of for our younger modelers, and it's a first introduction both into building a layout, assembling a classic layout with a station, a church, an engine shed, carriage sidings, a goods shed, and then showing how they come together in a model railway setting, but one that actually represents a prototypical setup, prototypical arrangement. It very much is, and we're using this with a young man that's spending some work experience with us. He comes to us from a local school, and we tested it out with him, and I'm pleased to say it worked really, really well. First of all, we went through developing the plan, the abbreviations that we use on the plan, like ES, engine shed. It comes naturally to us because we've been using that language for years. But for a young person, I thought it was very, very rewarding to get them to work out what all the abbreviations meant that we take for granted. And then we went to the step of, well, here's the box of buildings, now find the buildings, find the right type of building for its location and place it on the layout. And in the course of it, again, some things that we would take for granted, like a water mill, I was able to explain to the young student what a water mill actually was, what it did, its role that it played in the history of the country, and then why it was important for the railways. The same as a cattle dock. Nobody would see a cattle dock on the railway today, but our historical model has a cattle dock in it, and we can talk about the cattle and the sheep, how they were collected, put on wagons and taken to market. So it kind of emphasises there are so many dimensions to model railways, and this I think is a good way of bringing them all together for someone who's relatively new to the hobby.
Hi, my name's Bill Clark, and I'm a volunteer here. Volunteer most Saturday mornings and occasionally in the week. Model railways basically, being quite local as well, so I've been following the progress of AIMREC since they announced they wanted to go in Ashford to start off with. So it was a great opportunity to sort of join the team really, as I only live sort of 15 minutes away. Great opportunity, so yeah.
And how long have you been a model railway enthusiast?
Well, since I was probably 5 or 6, so that's quite many years ago, since my dad bought my first train set back in the early 60s, so yeah, since then really. Oh yes, he let me play with it now and again.
Yes.
I've still got some of the locos from it as well, though they're non-runners now. I'm trying set. I think the model railway aspect of it really was just trying to replicate the real thing. You know, we often go like train spotting in London, I was from London in Liverpool Street or King's Cross, places like that. So it's really trying to replicate and just, to sort of concentrate and remember what we used to do as train spotters, yeah. I am, a member of Faversham Model Railway Club as well, so I go there occasionally. It's a bit of a trek to go over there, but I do attend there now and again. So yeah, it's quite a good club to be a member of. You can just really sort of sink yourself into whatever the hobby is. I mean, it goes for any hobby you want to, it's just that opportunity to concentrate on something other than life, just to lose yourself in something that's relevant, irrelevant or whatever, just something you're pleased doing. I'm lucky I've got a shed at home, big model shed, so I've got a layout in there that I'm building, have been building for some time. It's also my workshop where I do a lot of my modelling in there as well. So yeah, it's just a nice opportunity to get out there for a few hours a day, in the evening maybe, put the radio on, listen to some loud music and then just lose yourself in the time. I build a lot of plastic kits as well. I've been doing those for years. I do the odd occasional article for magazines. I've written for Airfix Model World in the past and Scalextric Modelling and a few. They're just how to build. So I'm currently doing Airfix's Vulcan, which is quite an exciting kit to build. I've been looking forward to that for many years since the original one in '83 was first issued. So yeah, great opportunity. There's a lot of similarities. I mean, there's certain skills that I've learned from model railways that I would never need in model aircraft. I mean, that's electric soldering, white metal even as well. I'm so used to working with plastics, plastic kits, but it's quite different now working with white metal, soldering, things like that. But there is a lot of crossover. There's a lot of skills that I've learnt really from model aircraft that are transferable to the model railway hobby as well. Certainly painting, painting skills, decaling, things like that. I'm working on a layout over there which is going to be a shunting puzzle. It's going to be fully DCC. I'm just working out the next challenge will be to get the point motors in. We're reimagining a layout. It was donated to us by someone, the widow of a modeller. So we've reimagining it as a smaller layout to what it was, but we want to use as much of the original features of that model as we can. As a little nod to the person who built it, who spent so much time building it. So we'll certainly be using all the buildings from that, a lot of the track, and yeah, just to sort of keep the spirit of that model alive, really. Well, as I said earlier, it's really an opportunity to escape. I'll be retiring soon next year, so I don't know if that will mean more time modelling or more time with the grandchildren or what really. I don't know yet, but we'll see. So yes, yeah, I've got the young lads are they're often standing on stalls in my shed and playing with the trains, or literally playing with the trains, but yeah, they'll be involved in that, I think.
A favourite locomotive model? It has to be Winston Churchill 34051. The Triang Hornby model was one of the first that I was given as a model railway present when I was probably about 3 or 4, alongside a more humble M7 tank, but I've still got both of them, both in working order. The Winston Churchill has a beautiful smell that models of the 1960s make when you run them 50 years later. And I love that smell, because that smell takes you back to your childhood. But I've got various other more modern representations of Winston Churchill, and I would have to say that's one of my favourite locos. I've always found that being involved in the model railway hobby from quite a young age can easily transport you to your own miniature world. It's a world that you're in control of. You can design it. You can bring your experience to bear in what you create. It's a very creative hobby. And it can actually transport you away from your daily troubles if you have them. Take your mind off that, go and focus on something else, create something. I think creation's really important. You're using your imagination and your experience to physically build something. And I think model railways they're three-dimensional art, and there are many, many aspects to them that brings in model making, it brings in history, it brings in painting skills, constructional skills, engineering skills, electrical skills. There's so much that this hobby encompasses.